American football in Finland.
The voice in your ears and the face on your screen. I'm Perfect Pervis, and this is American Football in Finland. Today, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Coach Q and Chris Green. What's going on, fellas?
What up? What up?
What's up?
Good to be back. The AFF podcast is available everywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can see us visually here on YouTube, wherever you listen or watch. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and like us. And anyone who doesn't hit that button, but you're still listening and watching, that's okay. We know you're a hater. We're going to get on with the show anyways. Okay, so it's first down where we get a chance to start fresh and discuss whatever's on our minds. Q, what's up with you?
Not much, man. In the sunny state, Florida, baby. Enjoying this weather all weekend. That's all I did, man.
Y'all didn't have those like thunderstorms and stuff out there like a week ago?
Every day, about 10 to 15 minutes every day. So it's you get used to
it. What about you, Chris? What's going on with you, man?
So yesterday, I went to the Wimbledon finals.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was so good. Got to watch the men's singles final and the mixed doubles final. It was class. Great atmosphere, like really good game. I mean, the men's singles game wasn't very competitive. Like Alcaraz, he beat the pants off him in 3 straight sets, but that was good. But before that, I got to watch an invitational doubles game. So it's when like older players come back and play. And the two Bryan brothers were playing, who were Americans. They were playing a doubles game against Leighton Hewitt and Anderson, I think, from South Africa. But they won. But that was a good game to watch as well. It was funny. They were like chatting to the crowd and whatnot whilst they were playing. But that was just a great atmosphere.
Is that one of the games where they have like the microphones on the guys and then you can hear
they would do. I don't think they did, but you could just hear them like because you're so close.
Close, okay.
Yeah, they're just like it was funny, but it was great atmosphere, like real good experience.
Well, I'll tell y'all what's on my mind. I want to just throw this out here. This is random, but again, it just came to my mind. I've been seeing a lot of WNBA content on the line, as I like to call it. And my question to you two guys is, what are your thoughts on like the WNBA where it's at now? You know, just give me some feedback on how you feel about what's going on with the WNBA and all the attention it's getting.
I personally think, it's a good thing that they're getting a lot of attention. I think the media is like kind of taking a lot of the brightness of like what's happening right now and making it like divisive. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just praising and like letting us watch, these new girls and the old girls, battle. They always a storyline of like, oh, it's this person against this person. And it's like, not really. Like what they're trying to do is they want the WNBA to grow. You know what I'm saying? They got players that are now on a platform that they weren't on before. Yes, there was a lot of great basketball WNBA players, but they didn't have the following and they have the platforms that these players have. So instead of just everybody, coming together as far as like supporting them, it's like, oh, they're trying to put this player against that player. And they comparing these players, and none of these players are probably even comparing to each other. They probably never even thought of it like that. It's just the media do it, but it's still fun watching it. Still, I watch it a lot more than I did in the past. But I always used to be watching certain players. But it's good to just to be able to look forward to watching their games. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I ever been excited before until now, but. It's good, man. It's growing. Hopefully they capitalize off of all this attention and it actually grows and they get a lot more benefits too. So, that's my little spiel on it.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? I don't know if it's made its way across the pond yet.
I don't really know much about it, if I'm honest. Like, obviously, I know what WNBA is, but
so it's not a big thing in the area yet.
It's not a big thing over here, but I just feel like worldwide at the moment they're really trying to push women's sport as well, and they're trying to get like more media coverage and things like that. So over here they've got netball, which is a similar game to basketball, but you can't like move with the ball and stuff, which is a big women's sport over here. It's one of the sports I play as well. But they've got a new league next year, which they're trying to professionalize it. So I guess they're trying to do the same sort of thing with the WNBA, get more money into it, because I know the salaries that the women are on are not great. But then I guess it's always that catch-22, isn't it? Because it always percentage of revenue from the amount of fans that come to watch. So I guess to get money, you've got to get people to buy into the product. But if people don't know about the product, it's hard to buy into the product that they don't really know much about. So it's kind of like a vicious circle, isn't it, with these sorts of things? But it's great that women's sport is on the map and it's on the rise. So, it can only be good if it's getting bigger and better.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go a different route on this because y'all both are so nice about it. And again, I'm being honest, but if you're a woman right now, I might come off a little bit misogynistic, but I'm here for the exposure and the media coverage of the WNBA. I love it. I have favorite players. Asia Wilson is my favorite. Kelsey Plum is a close second. And then I like the rookies, Angel Reese and Cam Brinks. Those are the four players that I really like. Caitlin Clark isn't really on my list of players I like because I like Paige Buchers. So I know I can't like both of them. It's almost the same player. So I'm just going to let Caitlin shine until Buchers get in the league and then do her thing. But my real deal with WNBA is I'm still not sure if it's actually good basketball, if that makes sense. But I'm not one of them people that's like, oh, I'm constantly going to, critique and judge. But, I'm still not watching the WNBA game because when I watch it, it's not exciting for me as a fan. But I also don't care for watching NBA games from the same standpoint. An NBA game for me, the last 2 minutes tells you what really happens. Like that's the most important part of the game. The rest of it is just fluff. But for a WNBA game, I don't even care about the last 2 minutes because most of it just looks like fluff. And from what I've seen, like highlights wise, it's still like it's competitive for the women, but I think like you're not going to get a lot of people to like the sport, which is why, like what you said, Q, everyone's kind of went toward the narratives of it instead of the actual play. The few times that I've seen like people like show something on like the actual play, it's never been that good. They show every once in a while like Caitlin Clark, throwing good passes or shooting, and then you see her teammates that can't catch the passes. And like, well, that's not good for the league because it looks like she's playing with bums. And then I saw something about like Angel Reese like having all these rebounds. They showed one play. She shot 3 shots and missed them and got all the rebounds and just kept putting it back up. And I'm like, okay, Russell Westbrook, stat pattern. Like that's how I would have saw it. But then you have like people saying, Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, they play 2 totally different positions. They never play against each other ever. And there's a narrative that will always follow them differently than you had the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and the MJ versus the Pistons and all that. Like people are trying to make these like comparisons to like the NBA from the WNBA. And for me, as a general basketball outsider, I don't know why I'm talking about this on this podcast, but I wanted to, so I'm gonna do it. It just seems forced. And I would just wish they would just, let the girls play their brand of basketball and stick with that instead of trying to make that whole like crossover to, well, it's similar to the men's like this and this is what they're doing. And then these like crazy storylines. Have y'all heard about the girl who was on the same team as her ex-girlfriend and she was protecting her girlfriend against the other one? Like that's just malarkey. Like you cannot be out here just putting people business in the street like that. But I do think like it's crazy how much like attention like the league is getting, but I don't think it's getting the right attention to grow, if that makes sense. Like I feel like they putting it in this like bubble, which is gonna hurt it long term. Like it's similar to like those fasts that you see on like Instagram and stuff when there's like a meme like hawk to a girl. That's dope right now, but we all know a year from now we're not gonna care. And I feel like the way that they're doing the NBA, like with the media, and they're taking the focus off of the actual like basketball part, the people that are watching now, in a few years, they'll move on to something else. And I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. It was crossing my mind. I just saw a whole bunch of stuff before we got on the podcast. So sorry for the random digression, but it was a good topic. We should do a show about just random sports one day. I don't know. Let's get out of here. Okay, we're going to get to our players of the week. Presented by Ballers International. Ballers members is a private group of service athletes, two service athletes. Ballers members are athletes coming together as men in a brotherhood environment. If brotherhood is something you're looking for, DM Ballers Internationals at BallersINT on Instagram. So players of the week have been announced on our social media channels earlier this week. But of course, now we're going to take this chance to explain our players and why we chose them. Excuse me, sorry. First guy we'll talk about is the young Lucas Erola. I don't know why it says DB on my screen, but receiver from the Porvoo Butchers. Stats don't matter, but he had 4 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns in his team's upset victory this week. Q, what were your thoughts on the young Erola?
This is the Lucas that we're used to seeing, at least that we seen last year. The run by you, the big play, Lucas. And that's exactly what you got in this game. And he hit big early and often in the game. Like you said, 4 catches, but they were all big catches for the most part. And when he's doing things like that and hitting you over the top, it's nothing that your defense really can do. I don't know why Corpio went man or were trying to go man with him, but that was a bad idea. He made him pay. So he's definitely one of the players, if not, one of the best prior performances this weekend.
Yeah, what about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on young Erola?
Lucas Erola, welcome back to the Maple League.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've not seen this from you much this season. So, and he had a day. I mean, that one-handed grab was special, but not just that. The second touchdown he scored with the toe tap in the side of the end zone, that was just as impressive. So, yeah, he had a day, and it's like like you said, the Lucas Erola of old from last year, what we've seen from him. He's got burners, he's got great straight line speed, clearly got good hands. He just put himself into good positions to make plays, and that's exactly what he did. And Brandon Gwinner was able to get him the ball, and he did the rest. So, yeah, Lucas, well deserving of the player of the week on offense this week.
I agree with you guys. It was good to see him have, a dominant performance. And I don't have a lot to say about it because in my mind, I'm a little upset. And I hope Lucas is upset too because him and Gwinner, I don't know. I'm not going to blame either one of them, but they know he should have had at least 2 or 3 more touchdowns in this game.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it. Like, there was 2 in one drive. He caught 2 passes that were in the end zone. He's behind the defender and it wasn't called a touchdown just because a little bit too far out or couldn't get his feet down one time. However you want to call it, him and Gwinner got to make them touchdowns because this should have been a 4-touchdown game for him, and we should be like, oh, my God, he's the best receiver in the world. I mean, the 2 touchdowns was really good, but he dominated in this game. He was running by whatever DB they had out there, number 22, number 23, it don't matter, 24, 25, 27, whatever number you put out there, Lucas Erola running by him. And the only issue that I had in this game was there were situations where they weren't able to capitalize into points how good and how dominant he was at his receiver position this week. And I really wish they would have done more dominant in that fashion because – going towards the end of the year, everybody's going to start looking at stats. And, I want him to have as many touchdowns as he deserves because he deserved to have 4 touchdowns in this game easily, if not more. So, again, congratulations to Lucas Erola. You did have the most dominant performance. Even though you only had 105 yards, I feel like you should have had about 150, 160. But we saw that performance, and that's why he got MVP. It wasn't really about his stats. It was about him being so good in this game. So moving on to the defensive player of the week. I got to look at my notes because I've already forgotten. Oh, another Porvoo Butcher, Zach Wright, defensive back. Stats-wise, he had 1.5 tackles, 2 PBUs, and 1 interception for 7 points. Q, what are your thoughts on Zach Wright?
Zach Wright, he did a lot more than what the stats show. Just his presence alone in this game, being where he needs to be, the pick 6, early. Those are the type of plays that you want from your imports. Those are the type of plays we expect from him. So he definitely showed up in this game, and I think he knows that you have to make plays like that to get your defense behind you, to get your guys following your lead, and that keeps up a lot of momentum to go into the rest of that game. So Zach Wright got a nice pick six at the right time in this game because it pretty much just went up from there for the most part.
What about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on Zach Wright's performance?
I think Q just hit the nail on the head there. He just said timing was key. And he timed that pick six to perfection, undercut that out route, took it all the way. But like you said, in the game as well, the timing, they needed a play. He made the play. And then from there, it was all butchers. It was all butchers. There wasn't much offense from Quapio, and Zach Wright was a big reason for that factor. And he was just a force again. Like we're seeing the Zach Wright that we're used to seeing, accustomed to seeing from last year. So yeah, great to see him get Defensive Player of the Week this week.
I think my thoughts on Zach Wright in this game is a little bit different. The interception was great, but if you watch this game, Zach Wright was playing multiple positions. He wasn't just playing his normal safety position. I seen him out at corner. I seen him at nickel. I seen him at free safety, maybe it was strong safety, depending on how the defense was. But he was literally moving the defensive backfield based on the formation that the Steelers were giving them. And he was moving guys around. He was moving his corners. He was moving his linebackers. He was moving his other safeties. He was moving the entire defense throughout the game. Like, again, I don't know if he was the guy making the calls per se. Maybe the defense coordinator was telling him, what situations. But I do know that he did enough preparation for this game that he was able to sniff out things and know what the opponents were going to do, including that pick six at the beginning of the game. You seen him, he came down and he immediately jumped the route. He knew what concept they were doing. He knew where to be. They didn't think that he knew it. Ball comes out, he gets pick six. And what I really love about Zach Wright, and this game is just more evidence of it, is that when he gets an interception, he scores touchdowns. I love that. I just love that. I love a defensive player that affects the score by doing more than just taking the ball away. He's taking the ball away and adding points for his team. So, again, congratulations to Zach Wright. Hell of a game this week. It's good to see the Butchers defense really coming on this time of the year. And I'll talk more about them when we get into the matchups. All right, let's talk about some of the key player performances this week. All stats aside, these are players who deserve recognition for their play last weekend, and we can give players 1, 2, or 3 helmet stickers depending on the performance. Q, do you have anyone you're thinking about?
Johannes Johaninen. I hope I said it right. Receiver for the Helsinki Roosters, even though they played against the Wolverines. Just his presence in this offense now has been big these last few weeks. And I think Ambrose was missing him early in the season. And now that he's back and he's in that rotation and he's in a rhythm, I think it could be big for the Roosters offense. So I've seen a lot of good play out of a lot of guys that I'm used to seeing good play from during the season, and he was just one of the guys that stood out to me. Shout out to him. I think he had like about 8 receptions, over 100 yards, and he's not even the number one option for the Roosters. So I think that's big to see him being healthy and being productive. And I think it's just beginning for that receiving core now going into the rest of the season. But he definitely stood out to me.
What about you, Chris? Who are you giving your stickers to?
I got a couple of guys this week. The first one I'm going to go for is Matt Barrett, linebacker for the Helsinki Roosters. I feel like he had a strong performance. I'm going to say 2 helmet stickers for him. He had 3 solos, 6 assists, and he had half a tackle for loss. I don't know how you have half a tackle for loss, but it probably just didn't, how they are with the stats here in Finland. But he just played well. Like, he did exactly what they needed him to do. And again, yes, they played the Wolverines, so not much on offense, but he did his job and he's settling into that defense really well. And he's going to come up big for them, I think, when they come and play some of the important games down the stretch.
Yeah, for me, one guy that stood out, I'm gonna go with that same game. Helsinki Wolverines, Will Young. I know they lost the game, but he played damn well. And he didn't have much trouble, finding holes and making players miss. Again, this was a blowout game. So once it became like 28-0, I pretty much turned the TV off. So everything I saw him do was early in the game. And I felt like he was doing fine. The rest of the offense obviously wasn't helping him. But to kind of epitomize what I saw from Will Young, there was a play where he had a pulling lineman run into another lineman on his team. So he had two of his linemen, and he had a guy that was pulling the way that he was going on a counter, and then the other guy for some reason turned left, and they ran into each other, and he still gained like 20 yards on the play, which means he not only did he have no blocking, he had negative blocking. They ran into each other in the backfield. And yet he still made those two guys, defenders, miss, and two more defenders miss him in the hole because he had that kind of vision and was making those kind of plays. And that's kind of how the game went for him. I think that if he was given more opportunities, they also would be doing a little bit better. But, tomato, there's only so much they can do. And it's much easier to throw it to Kevin Adams than to hand it off to him, obviously. But I just want to give him his 3 stars this week because he did a hell of a job in a situation that me personally, I would never run behind that type of O-line that can't even decide which way to go on a play. And then you have to do everything by yourself. So kudos to him. He gets 3 stars from me. Q, do you have anyone else you want to throw out there?
No, that's about it for me. How you doing?
Q stingy with them stickers.
you get one. That's all you get. What about you, Chris? You said you had a couple names.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my guy again. I've got to because he showed out again. This guy is Kevin Adams for the Helsinki Wolverines. He had 8 catches for 109 yards. Week in, week out, this guy is just putting the team on his back. He's doing whatever he can for this organization. He's playing his heart out. And, he's second in the league in receiving yards. So he's just balling week in, week out. And I've got to give this guy his props because he just keeps coming back harder and harder. And he's a great team locker room guy. And you can just see that with his leadership on the field. And he just keeps on going. Doesn't matter how hard he gets hit or if he's got to run out of bounds or whatever he's got to do. He's just the guy for him. And it's a great safety blanket for Rasmus. And yeah, I've got to give him his due. He's doing a great job there.
You're right. He at least keeps them relevant. The Wolverines are kind of from the rumblings I've got. They're feeling confident. In the last couple of weeks they've been playing well, and he's a big reason is that Kevin Adams has been putting up almost 150 yards every week, right? The last couple of weeks, almost.
Yeah, he's been putting up over a buck, every week.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So
and it's a lot of receptions as well. So he's having to work really hard for his yards.
Because no one else is catching the ball for the Wolverines. I think they got like 3 other receivers that have catches. So that definitely makes sense. A guy I want to talk about, and this is a guy we just haven't talked about this guy this year, which is crazy. But and I really hope I'm not butchering his last name. Rod Sylvester, defensive back from the Butchers. Okay, so I want to talk about in this game. Again, I'm not in the coaching booth. I don't know what the plan was, but it seemed to me that he was shadowing Austin Brock. Austin Brock had less than 30 yards receiving in this game, and the Butchers did a hell of a job limiting what Austin Brock could do. And a lot of it had to do with Rod Sylvester. He was on him more than I saw. The most that I saw was a lot of times he was wherever Austin Brock was, and Austin Brock did not create a lot of separation. I only seen him create separation one time from Rod, and other than that, he was on him like white on rice. So I'm giving this man 3 stars for doing what no one else has done this year, and that's slow down Austin Brock. And he needs to get his flowers for that. I'm still not sure if he wants to be a corner or a safety. So I'm just thinking he's just going to be an all-around DB for them because he's kind of been moving around all year. I haven't really got a feel for which position he likes the most, but I do think that he's definitely made it known that his job is to stop the best guy at receiver for the other team. And however his team wants him to do that, he's able to do that. And he proved it against arguably the best receiver in the league right now in shutting down Austin Brock. And, that's hard for me to say because, I like me some Austin Brock, but he didn't win this battle. And Rod Sylvester definitely won it. Another guy I'm going to throw out there as kind of a combo package is Timmy Nuika, linebacker. In my opinion, from what I saw, again, Zach Wright was moving guys around, but Tim Nuika was playing more like a nickelback than outside linebacker in this game. You notice he only blitzed a few times, and usually when he did blitz, he was able to get home and create pressure, but he wasn't really in the run game like he normally is. He was out there guarding guys like Tino and Dongo and staying with them and running down the field with Noah Choate. Like, he was a coverage backer and just showed really great range because we've kind of seen him be more of a get all the tackles, put pressure on the quarterback guy. And in this game against this offense, he was able to adjust, just showing how versatile he is at the linebacker position. And a lot of what he did played off of what Rod Sylvester did and what Zach Wright did. I feel like those three were kind of playing like a triangle defense, if that makes sense. You would have two of them down, one of them back, and then they would rotate towards where they thought the strength was of the defense. So I give 2 stars to him because he didn't have a lot of stats from it, but he did do a really good job in the pass coverage for them. So 3 for Sylvester and 2 for Nuika. Chris, you got anybody else you want to throw out there?
I got 2 more. I'm going to be quick with them as well.
Yeah,
so I've got Christian Powell, running back for the Crocodiles. He had 11 rushes, 90 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Big day for him. He was playing against the Crusaders, but you've got to give him his due. He did what he needed to be done, and he ran the ball hard and he ran the ball well. The other guy, I'm going to go outside the box a little bit here. I'm going to go kicker, and I'm going to go to kicker. Yeah, I'm going to go to kicker. Yeah, he's going to get 1 star, but I'm going to go to the kicker for the Crocodiles, F2 Makimanis. He got 5 out of 5 PATs, and not often we see that in this. He got 5 out of 5, so he gets 1 star from me.
I got a 1 star too that I'm gonna throw out there. Outside linebacker from the Quopio Steelers, Roy Campi, number 9. Hey, dude is legitimately could be a pass rusher. I saw him put a lot of pressure on Brandon Gwinner on a couple throws in this game. And again, obviously their defense didn't play bad. I really don't think Steelers defense played bad. And I think he was kind of the reason. I saw a lot of pressure coming from the edge, from him coming off the edge. And he made a lot of like open field tackles as well. So I just want to give him 1 star because it was good to see someone outside of their normal, Jamarcus Henderson and Carlton Marshall kind of creating pressure. Because we haven't seen anyone else create pressure for the Steelers. And he really did create some pressure in this game, and we'll talk about it later when we talk about the full game. But for now, Roy Campi, you get 1 star from me, man. You look good out there.
Are you a fan of the American Football in Finland podcast? Show your support in style. Rock our logo proudly on hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, and snapbacks, all designed for fans like you. Join us in celebrating American football in Finland. Grab your gear and be a part of the AFF community.
All right, it's that time. Win or loss. We know who technically won or lost the last weekend's games, but let's talk about who we think won or lost the game. First game, Helsinki Roosters versus Helsinki Wolverines. Q, who won or lost this one?
Helsinki Roosters won this game. Stronger team, more playmakers, took care of business. They did have some. They didn't play really their starters really in a lot of positions. Some of the starters played, but for the most, a lot of their backups played. Which I said last week, they probably still could win even if the backups played. So they actually let a lot of their starters and veteran guys rest. They still got the job done. I said the young brother Parnon, he could run rampant, and he pretty much did too. Sorry, he had a long touchdown run that got called back, but Roosters took care of business, without any major injuries or anything like that. So Roosters definitely won this game.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Who won or lost this one for you?
Yeah, it's simple. The Roosters won, didn't they? It was easy for them. Like you said, they were making loads of backups in. They got their backup quarterback in who threw a touchdown. So they were just in control of the game, and I think it was a game they were supposed to win, and they won. And it was just easy for them. I don't really feel like the Wolverines put up much fight. A little bit of resistance on offense from Will Young and Kevin Adams, but it's always those two guys. There's never really anyone else for this team that are stepping up and making a claim to say, I'm here. Here's my presence. But, yeah, I mean, even all the backups, young Lassie that Q said about, he said about him, he was going to get lots of reps this game. He did. I mean, he only had 6 carries, but they didn't have a lot of run plays anyway. They threw the ball quite a lot compared to the run, but they did what they needed to do. They won the game. It was easy. I mean, we don't really need to talk much about it. It was easy for them.
Yeah, only thing I'm going to add is I'm still upset they didn't put up like 70 or 80, but, TIF, what you going to do about it? Everybody wants to take it easy, put in backups. I would have started my starters, and I would have tried to put up 100 points on little brother. But that's just the competitive person in me, I guess. I don't know. They be trying to, save people for the rest of the season type stuff. I don't know. But, a win is a win. Win is a win. All right. Second matchup, the real game of the weekend, Kuopio Steelers versus Porvoo Butchers. Who won or lost this one, Q?
How
do you feel about it?
I'm going to say Porvoo won the game. Porvoo won the game. They were the more aggressive team. They came out with a different intensity than we've seen in these previous games, and I think that was just too much for the Steelers. And it happened quick. The momentum swung real fast for Porvoo, and they're the type of team that if they get that momentum, the confidence comes, and then plays just start happening after that, and that's just what happens. I can't even say that the Steelers played even decently what we're used to seeing them play because they played bad. Offensively, they played bad. Defensively, they had a lot of good stops against the Butchers because the Butchers probably left. From what I've seen, the Butchers left at least 21 points to 28 points on the board just because of how the field position they were in. They were trying to score. I guess the field goals were maybe a little out of range for what they could offer, but the Porvoo Butchers had an overall good game. Defensively, they played a great game as a unit. But Kuopio, once they get their running back, I think this next matchup, if they play each other again, I think it'll be a little different. It's real easy to call a defense against a team that doesn't really run the ball a lot. And I think they ran into that. And I just think the Steelers right now are at a point where, they have to gut check and say, hey, don't panic. It's one game, don't panic. But you see who you have to beat. Also, you see that like these teams that you beat before, you see that it's a different road that next time. And these guys are going to get better. And the Butchers are one of those teams that can get hot and go on a streak, and a win like that could do it. So Porvoo definitely won this game.
What about you, Chris? What are you thinking?
I'm going to go different. I'm going to say the Steelers lost. And the reason why I'm going to say the Steelers lost, number one, they were the favorite going into this game. They were supposed to win. They're the number one team right now. They were supposed to win this game, and they didn't. Secondly, I feel like the defense played very well. Mm-hmm. The defense of the Steelers played very well. They had, I think, 2 forced fumbles. Was it 1 recovered? I think they only recovered 1 of them.
Yeah. They also had an interception. I know they had an interception as well.
Yeah. And
3 turnovers, right?
Yeah. I think their offensive line let them down. I don't think they played the best that they played this year. Josh Taylor was sacked, 4 times, I think? 4 times he was sacked. Yeah, just checking the stats now. And
can I jump in there real quick about those sacks, though? Quarterback got to get rid of the ball, bro. Josh Taylor back there playing who done it with that ball sometimes, like running in circles. I don't want to throw the line under the bus for some of those sacks because I watched the game.
They didn't play that good. The O-line didn't play that good though.
Yeah, I don't think they played that good, but also like those sacks a lot of times were on either quarterback holding it too long, receivers not getting any separation. I think it was more of a team at fault than just that O-line from that point. That's all I'm saying is because I still think the O-line played decently considering, who they were playing against and what they had going on play-wise. A lot of 3- and 5-step drop plays where the quarterback holds the ball for 5 seconds. It's hard to protect. It's just, that's not what they were planning on doing, and they find out he's still back there running around in circles.
Yeah, I think they've had a below average, if not average game. It's not like the offensive line play that we're used to seeing. Which was kind of where I was going. I mean, they still did average 5.1 rushing yards per carry. I don't think they ran the ball as much as they should.
Who was running the ball and getting all these yards?
Well, Josh Taylor had 7 carries. Vili Linston had 4.
I forgot Ville was pushing the pile a little bit.
Yeah, Ville had some big runs. So I think he had like a 9-yard run and a 10-yard run or something. And so he was averaging like 7.3, but he only had 4 carries.
Mm-hmm.
So they only ran the ball 17 times. They didn't have many offensive plays the entire game, which tells me that the Butchers were just keeping the ball on offense longer. Like we said, the Butchers should have had more touchdowns, but they just didn't convert.
Yeah.
But the defense of the Steelers played well. They stopped them on those big downs and on some of those throws, got some pressure, and the defenders were in the right positions. But yeah, I'm going to say the Steelers lost just purely based on the fact that they were supposed to win this game and their offense didn't produce. They didn't play as what we've expected them to play this year. And Josh Taylor, again, he was below par this game. We've kind of seen a little bit of a slump from him in the last few games, and it's not what he was producing at the start of the year.
Yeah, I agree with Chris, actually. I think that the Steelers lost the game. I think from a different point of view, though, I don't feel like they played as bad as you guys are saying. I feel like they didn't play as good as what we expected. And I think we have to be more realistic about the bar that we're setting for them, because it's just like anyone else in this league. When they're playing the bad teams, yeah, they're playing great. And they started the season with some easy games. And we, gave them their flowers early. But the last time they played the Butchers, it was close. You could arguably say, if the Butchers had been able to have offense in that first game, it would have been different. In this game, I feel like the Steelers lost the game because the Butchers tried to give it to them. In my opinion, the Butchers tried to give it to them. They scored on the first play on offense. The Butchers scored. That's great. Lucas Arilla, one-handed grab to the crib. I love it. They don't score for the rest of the half. So think about it. The Butchers score on the first play of offense and then don't score for 2 quarters offensively. The second score that they get is the first play for offense for the Steelers. And the Butchers defense gives them points. So they're up 14-0, and that's great. And they held that lead and, continued throughout the game. But ultimately, they left points on the board, like Q said. They started, from what I saw in the game, the Butchers never started on their side of the field after that first drive. They were always inside the 40, or at least on the plus side of the other side of the field. The reason a couple of those Lucas Arilla catches weren't touchdowns wasn't enough field, because they only had to go 40 yards, and they were throwing a 45-yard pass. That first one, they had the whole field so he could go and get it. The last couple ones, once the field got shortened for the Butchers, their offense wasn't as effective as it is with the full field behind them. And you could see that in this game. And for me, they were ripe for the picking. The Steelers, all you had to do was make a big play, create something, and they weren't able to do that. That's why I feel like they lost this game, because the Butchers, in my opinion, they didn't want to win this game. They just happened to jump out really early with those 2 big plays. And then after that, when they settled into the game, it really didn't look like either team was better. If you look at second quarter and third quarter of this game, actually, after the first 2 minutes of the game, it was 14-0. And then no one scored until the third quarter. So you saw two and a half quarters of football, and you're just like, okay, nobody is trying to score. The Butchers looked like they were in control because they had short field the whole time, but they never could punch it in because the Steelers defense was stout. It was good in the red zone, and when you got close to scoring, they played their part, and then offensively they moved the ball a little bit, but nothing really happened. Like they just couldn't get anything going offensively, even though Josh Taylor was able to have success running the ball. But then when it was pass plays, he had no one to throw to, and then started doing Josh Taylor did what he does. We've seen him do all these crazy runaround plays and then pull it off. But the Butchers weren't having it. They're a very sound defense, and it didn't work. It reminds me very much of Josh Allen. You know how Josh Allen he'll win you games, but he can also lose you games because he's so talented. Josh Taylor, very similar. This was a game where he needed to be doing one-step drops, quick game, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, but he held it, which is what the Butchers defense wanted him to do. And he played into their hands. So it just, again, I feel like they lost the game more than the Butchers won, because I feel like a lot of what the Butchers did, we knew they were going to do. What the Steelers did, it didn't add up. It didn't seem like they were trying to win in the situation that they had, and they had too many opportunities to win. So I feel like they lost this game for sure. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think it was a good game though. I think if you take away those first 2 minutes where you had those two big plays that kind of made it look worse than it was, then you have a 2-score game. After that, Butcher scored 10 more points?
Yeah, a field goal and another touchdown, yeah.
Yeah, that was more indicative of the game you saw on the field. Now, that doesn't take away those two big plays, but if you watch the game, take away the first 2 minutes of the game and then watch it, 10-0 seems accurate, even though it should have been more like 28-0 or 35-0. But again, I give credit to the Steelers defense for playing good in that area. But I do think that 2 of those Lucas Erla touchdowns would have been legit if they were 5 yards back. If they were at midfield instead of the 45, he'd have 2 more touchdowns. But it was still a really good game. But I think when you look at this, it shows what we said earlier in the season about that whole, if you're going to play somebody 3 times. The first game, we saw that okay, there's a chink in the armor for the Steelers. Second game, now we know they could be beaten. They have been. What happens in the playoffs? It's exciting. That's all I know. It's exciting.
Definitely makes it more open now between those top 4 teams. That's for sure.
Yeah, it makes it crazy. It makes it crazy because if they would have lost to like the Roosters or the Crocs, it's more like, okay, we can see that and maybe they'll revenge. But the fact they lost to the Butchers, now it's just like, okay, I don't know what to think, because I feel like that makes me think maybe the Butchers are better than we thought they were, but maybe it's a matchup thing too.
But
maybe they just match up better with the Steelers.
We always said, one thing we know is the Butchers have been playing inconsistent this year.
True.
Right? But we know what we know roster-wise what they're capable of because of the roster we've seen is, so I think for them, we just don't know what Butchers team we're going to get from game to game. Yeah. With the Steelers, we know exactly what team we're going to get. It's just whether or not it's on or if it's off. In these past few games, it just hasn't been on. And that's why I say don't panic, because what you live by, you die by. So if you go the first 4 games of really tossing the ball down the field and all of that, then you got to live with it when it's not going your way too. You can't just abandon the mission and start changing plays and adding plays. And it's just defenses, when they know you can't run the ball, hey, you got a team like the Butchers who have good DBs who can actually cover down the field and actually make it hard for you to get those deep passes, then that's what you run into. You don't have a running game, then you have nothing to balance that off. So defenses just play back and let you have everything. They let Josh run around and hopefully the D-line get him. That's what happened. The Butchers had a good strategy. It worked for them overall on defense. But I think Roosters, Crocs, I think they've probably been the more consistent teams throughout the year. But, for the most part, against all competition, not just the good and the bad teams. I think they've been pretty much themselves through all of these games. It comes down to a few plays here and there, whether they won or lost. But top four is still what we think the top four is. I do still think there are one or two teams in there in that top that still is a little maybe a tier or two better than they do something better than the bottom two teams may do. But we still got a lot of football to go, man. But it's interesting now that the Steelers lost and and the Butchers won. Is the Butchers going to crank up now and go on that run? You know what I'm saying? Or are they going to come
better.
next
They
week?
better. They better go on a run.
Look at the Crocs. The Crocs just, they had a tough loss and then they came back. And we said this last week, I don't want to be the team that's got to play the Crocs after they just lost this game. So they came back, did what they had to do. So it's going to be like this, I think, for the next few weeks. It's going to probably be another loss or two from these top teams. You know what I'm saying? That's going to make us be like, well, are they better than them or are they better than them? It just we won't know until we get to the gritty of it. But I like the win. I like the win by the Butchers. It shook things up.
Maple League 2024. Anybody can get it. Yeah. Anybody can get it. And last thing before we move on to the last game is I just want to throw this out there. I love the video of the Butchers walking into the water on Instagram after the win because they were so hot they had to go cool off after having such a hot game.
That was funny.
I love that. That is awesome.
That was funny.
I'm glad you know how to enjoy a win. Like that's how you do it. Like that's pretty cool. Hats off to the Butchers. Congratulations on the win. Let's get into this last game. The last game of the weekend was Crocs versus Crusaders. Q, who won or lost this one? It was 63-0, I think.
63-0.
63-8. 63-8. Sorry, they scored. My bad.
They got a score in the second quarter.
They're coming off a tough loss, man. They needed a win. They needed this win. They wanted to beat up on somebody. That's exactly what they went out there and did. They've had some additions to their team, so it'll be interesting to see how much better they get with a new tight end, new defense in, another D lineman coming back. So the Crocs right now are they're snapping, should I say? You know what I'm saying? It's like they when we see these games where they play against the Crusaders and the Wolverines and the Royals, it's like, man, if they could just play like this against these teams, but that's just part of football. But the Crocs took care of business, man. They got another win.
Let me ask you this, Q. Since you brought that up, I'm going to jump in here and throw it. Do you think that the difference of them playing the lower teams and the top teams, do you think that's more of like a player's situation or like a coaching situation of why they don't play to the same level?
I think it's a culture. It's a culture thing, which more lies on the players and the coaches. I think if you treat every game, it's easy to say to treat every game as just a game, but it's not. When you're playing football, when you have a actual mission and you say, hey, we lost last year in the championship game and we want to go back there. So you have to do things that you did differently last year, that you did different last year. So you don't want to get on that run and think you're unbeatable or feel like nobody can beat you and then you lose in the championship game. So what you want to try to do is be more consistent no matter who you're playing. Executing. When you go over those plays the next day after the game, you want to grade them. You want to grade the O-line. You want to grade the D-line, grade the receivers. You want to grade everybody to see, all right, on this play, did you get to where you were supposed to be? Did you get to where you were supposed to be? Because these teams that they're playing against, they're not going to get the look that they want to see, like, all right, are we getting better? You're not going to get that look against Crusaders. So what you need to see is mentally, are these guys going, are they blocking the people that are supposed to block, or they're communicating? Those are the type of things you want to see in games like this. It's nice that you put up 60-some points. That's great. That's cool. You got the W, but did you get better in this game? Only the coaches know once they, grade them or whatever. But I think it's more of a culture. So it's a mixture of players and the coaches on how they prepare for games and how they come into games. But it's just part of the season. They got a new quarterback, playing with a lot of new guys, not newer guys, but playing with new guys to him. So they need to see him go through adversity. They need to see how he comes back and bounce back from losing close games. It's all a learning process. It's a journey. And right now the Crocs they're not in a place where I think they're worried about anybody. I think when they go out there, they think they can play with anybody. So, but just teams playing down to whoever they're playing against, that's more of a player, coach thing in Finland. It just happens sometimes. It just happens. So
makes sense. What about you, Chris, in this game? Who do you think won or lost?
I mean, the scoreline says it all, doesn't it? Like, clearly, the Crocodiles won this game. Offensively, very productive in the run game and the pass game. Multiple guys getting touchdowns. They had a great game on defense as well, only letting up 8 points. I like to call this one a tune-up game for them because they've just come back off their loss from the Roosters. So they got a nice tune-up game, getting prepared for the Steelers next week. So obviously we know that's a massive game for them next week when they play the Steelers. So I'm sure they just tried a few different things just to see, we're still the Crocodiles. We're still here. We're going to put 63 points on you, the Crusaders. It's not 70, but it's 63, and we've still done a job. And we're making our statement. We're a top 4 team. We're there. We're now heading to playoffs. Let's see what we can do against the best ranked team in the league next week.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, obviously they won the game, but just to throw it out here, this was the easiest 1 quarter of football I ever watched in my life. Like I watched the first quarter, it was 21-0. They didn't. I don't know how the rest of the game went, and I won't watch the rest of it. And I was upset when it wasn't on Route 2 after the game, and I only could see highlights. My wife was like, "Just watch the highlights." I was like, "No, I have a process, and I know it was a blowout." Watching the first quarter when it could have been close. And in this game, they just walked through, like ran a couple plays. Eventually it was going to work. You're going to score, keep going. Shout out to the Crusaders because they were doing some random stuff on offense. Like, again, they probably changed from the stats, they probably changed in the second half or second quarter or something. But like Moses Harris was playing like receiver during the game. Like he wasn't at running back when they started the game. They had him doing some other stuff. They had Monte Williams coming out there playing receiver as well. I don't know if they were doing that because they didn't have enough players or they just thought mixing it up would somehow work for them, but it didn't. And they need to stop doing that stuff and stick to what they know. Hand number 24 the ball. Like that's your bread and butter. Hand number 24 the ball and hope everything else works out and throw it to number 4. That's what you do, you'll be fine. I think they could have done better in this game if they would have just stuck to what they know they can do well. But again, it was a blowout. It needed to happen. That's all we're going to talk about it.
Hey there, fans of American football in Finland. Want to show some love and support to your favorite podcast? For just €3, you can buy us a cup of coffee and help keep our podcast running strong. But why stop at 1 cup? Why not support each host with a cup? Visit buymeacoffee.com and show your support today. Cheers to keeping the conversation going.
That's it for this episode of American Football in Finland. Any last words before we get out of here, fellas?
Not today.
Got nothing.
Pretty easy one this week, apart from the one game. So, yeah.
So, never mind. We'll talk about it next episode. Last weekend is over, so you can catch us talking about the upcoming games right here on the AFF podcast tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and share on all social channels at American Football in Finland. Until next time, never forget AFF.
We gone.